Good morning. This morning, we're looking at St. Ignatius of Loyola. July 31st is feast day. Now, he lived 1491 to 1556, and I think he's the youngest of 13 children. And his father had thought he might become a good cleric, but he wanted nothing to do with that. So he went off and went to court, served in a courting setting, and had a pretty wild life. Wanted to be a soldier, and he got to be one. He did a lot of partying and womanizing, and did a lot of rabble rousing. He also went to battle and got great honor as like this great fellow. Very fond of some of the stories of people that had done great things, and he wanted to do great things in a military type sense. Well, at one point, he actually gets injured. A cannonball hits a wall and then bounces and shatters his leg. So he goes home to Loyola. That's de Loyola, is where he's from. And it's fascinating because back then they had no anesthetics at all. And they went and they did several operations on him, which had to be incredibly painful. During this time, it took him a long time to recover. He had a real change of heart. He had asked for some more books about these great adventures, King Arthur and the Round Table or something on that nature. But his sister-in-law, who was kind of running the house, she brought him all these books about saints and stories about Jesus, one in particular that really inspired him. And he started reading these and got more and more interested and thought, if I'm going to do my life right, I have to pursue and be a soldier for Christ. So he goes and he spends about 3 months just in thinking time and in acting like a very poor person, kind of in the idea of St. Francis of Assisi, and then determines that he's going to be a priest. So he goes to Paris. He spends 10 years in studies because he had to go into very basics to learn enough to get into the education, to learn a little bit of Latin and all the rest so that he could pursue his studies, and he gets a master's in theology. But in the course of this, he gets together with about 6 other fellows, Francis Xavier, Peter Faber, and several others, and he begins this order of the Jesuits, or at that time they were just wanting to take an extra vow, and that vow was an obedience to the Pope. Now this is at a time when Martin Luther is having Reformation going on and such, so they really needed a little support, and having this group that was very much a pro-Catholic and pro-support gained momentum. But at the same time, the Spanish and Portuguese were going off to other lands, and as he started up this order, and they started, and it grew, he was in charge for 15 years. When it started, it was 6 of them, and it was over 1,000 by the time his 15 years were over. But they would send people off to these missions, and so the Jesuits, as they would become known, they just went off in all these different areas. They started schools, and it was like contemplation and action. They were really big into trying to do actions that actually helped. When one of his co-founders, Francis Xavier, was going off to India, he said, "Go and light the fire." And it's kind of like, and he said it in Latin, of course, but the idea is to let that fire grow and to have it go. Now, he is famous for a book called Spiritual Exercises, and in that he really tried to work with the idea of discerning. And discernment is not just a matter of decisions, it's a matter of realizing where are we in our situation with God. We're either in consolation, where we're feeling really good, or we're in desolation, where we're feeling abandoned and bad. And between these two, and going through these 14 exercises, and they do this in Jesuits, is a standard spiritual retreat, would be a 30-day retreat. So it's quite a long endeavor. But boy, the Jesuits have had a really great success with it. A lot of people, I've read about all these 14 steps, and they're very good insights. For example, when you're way off course and you're feeling terrible, you shouldn't do anything different at that time. You should wait until you're on a good straight and narrow. But St. Ignatius of Loyola did wonderful things for us, and just bringing us to a real zeal. And I think, we have to have a zeal if we're going to really pursue our God and pursue a real love of other people. We can't do it by just sitting back and being comfortable. We have to actually have some energy and do some actions. So let us consider, let us discern what actions we might do today.